What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony from Truth Will Set You Free, and it is a new episode of Truth Tuesdays. We've got Casey, you know who he is, of course, and you've seen Tony Vans before on one of our earlier episodes. I think it was with Barb, Dave, Casey that night. I didn't get to make it. She was my fill-in, a little bit, just cooler than I am, wears the glasses, has purple hair, a lot of the things. But guys, we've got a really good episode for episode 125 on this one. There's a lot of questions that people have about what is going on in Ohio. There is a lot of questions that people have, obviously, with the Damar Hamlin situation, the interview heard around the world, and of course UFOs, which we really don't have any information on, but we're going to speculate because that's the fun part of Truth Will Set You Free. So without further ado, we're going to get the show started with a little countdown clock, and then we're going to get right into it with Truth Will Set You Free, episode 125. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, episode 125 of Truth Tuesdays. Go ahead and hit the share on your computer, hit the like, smash the like button, all of the things. We've got a really good show. The beginning, we are going to be doing an interview with a investigative journalist that was working on his own accord, Jordan Miller, who is actually in Ohio, boots on the ground. I asked for it. People shared stuff. I've talked to other people that have family in the area or live very close. So we're going to just discuss the truth surrounding this. We're going to talk a little bit about Damar Hamlin. We're going to talk about the things we shot out of the sky and the fact that apparently they were there during the Trump administration too, undetected, but they were detected. You get it. We're going to talk about that. So without further ado, though, let's introduce Tony Vans again. Tony, tell everybody who you are.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Tony Van Schoik. You can find me at Tony Vans Official on Instagram, but my love is talking about freedom, talking about our rights, talking about all of the things that are not being talked about on mainstream media, and also really loving the process of being a free American and really loving our country for what it was founded upon. Thanks, Anthony, and thanks, Casey, for having me on.
Always one of my favorite human beings in the whole world. Got to meet Tony last year at the Great American Summit. And she's going to be there again this year. We've got some big things in the works, which I'll actually tell Tony after because we can't fully talk about all of it. We have confirmed Chad Prather is one of our speakers this year. And we're working with some other partnerships, including closing the deal with Dallas Jewish Conservatives. They're going to be one of the initial lunch sponsors. Got a lot going on. I'm pretty excited. Got some speakers that are on the hook. We'll see what happens with that. So more to come. And Casey, what's going on in your world?
Not much. It's just watching the government and everything they keep doing to us or not doing anything to help us. One of the two.
Facts on facts on facts. Okay, so I got to thank Tony. Tony is one of the most generous human beings on the planet. And I've been talking about, especially on Blunt Force Discussion. If you didn't catch this last week, I had Scott Ramage on the show, who I got to meet in person at a Chad Prather show. But Tony always hooks me up. And we've talked about me being a representative for MONAT, which she is one of the OGs of that company from several years ago. And I've been using their hair care products since I met Tony. She's just always sent me the good stuff. And now she just sent me a little, I call it a prize pack. So I wanted to kind of open it. And I wanted to just, instead of sending people to my page, it's just easy. I can't foster that business. I do too much politics and all this random stuff. So she sent me all the good things, which is their new IR clinical stuff, which I have been using, Tony. I put it in at the end of the night. I put the little gelatin or whatever you want to call it in the top. But they've got, honestly, the most game-changing hair products I've had since I started to go bald about 15, 20, however many years ago it was. Like, I've been wearing a hat all day, and look at how full, I mean, legit. And this is their new clinical line. So if you want to get more information on it, it's for men, women. They've got a whole bunch of different stuff, skincare. Just go straight to her, tony.mymonate.com, and she'll take care of you on that page to just do that. So that's all I got to say on that. That was my one pitch, because honestly, I've never been religious about hair care products. I always use the cheapest stuff around. And this is the first time in a long time that my hair looks like this. So that's it. I'm done. I'm out. And we're going to talk about Super Bowl a little bit today. Before I play this interview, do you guys have anything to say about Ohio, what's going on, or just want to see what old Jordan had to say? Everybody's muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really want to see that interview because I have not seen it yet. I've watched 3 others, but not his.
So this guy, I mean, I honestly, I don't know what side of the political coin he lies on, but he's been boots on the ground. This is the guy that literally was videotaping when the other reporter got arrested. That was his footage that they've been sharing all over the place. So please, like everybody's seeing, I'm looking at everybody's comments before we really get into it. Watching from Florida, what's going on, Audrey? Hey, follow. Yep, Nikki always following up there. And then I'll have the scroll through on the bottom to join the Great American Syndicate. It's a whopping $4.99 a month. And then we do just, if you guys want to do us a favor and then realize that you're doing yourself a favor, join the damn syndicate. Pretty simple. And then if you want to go to greatamericansummit.com, that is where it is at right there. If you've got businesses that want to come, 8 tickets, and VIP and special seating, it's $2,500 for a whole office, and it's obviously a tax write-off. That is it. I see a whole bunch of people in the comments. Keep commenting where you're from. Let's break the algorithm. We're almost at 50 people. Not too shabby. I'm going to bring this interview up. And again, if there's any questions that come in the comment section, I've got no problem answering them as we go and maybe stopping. But remember, it's about a 15-minute interview, 17-minute interview. So you'll get a lot of answers there. So let's go ahead and kick the tires, light the fires, and get this started. All right, here's our interview with Jordan Miller. You can find him on Facebook. Is there any echo on that, guys, before I play it? Because I just realized something. No? All right. Facebook, Jordan Miller News. I had a couple of our followers reach out and say, if you want somebody with boots on the ground, Jordan's the guy that's been doing a lot of reporting in Ohio. He's from Canton, but of course he has been in East Palestine quite a bit. Jordan, go ahead and introduce yourself to people watching the show and a little bit more about you.
Hi, Anthony. Thanks for having me on. So I'm a local journalist, independent journalist in the Canton, Ohio area. I mainly cover a tri-county area, Stark County, Carroll County, Tuscarawas County, but this is in our neighboring county. I live in Stark County. This is right over the border in Columbiana County. So a story of this magnitude that has gained a lot of the traction that it has, it would be ill of me to not go out there and cover it.
I think it'd be ill of the national news to not cover it, which we're not seeing a ton of unless, I mean, I've watched CNN, I've watched Fox and MSNBC, and really the only people truly talking about what's going on the ground level that I can see right now is Fox, oddly enough. And of course, independent journalists like yourself, Jordan, your video was the one that is getting tossed around the most and shown the most regarding Evan Lambert, the reporter that was arrested. And we have a lot of people asking questions. What was the deal with that? And throughout all this, we know that there is a lot of gray area, plain and simple. There's extremists on both sides. So what really happened with that reporter?
I've got to tell you, it was just like that. We were in the press conference. Governor Mike DeWine had just started speaking, albeit the press conference started over 2 hours late. It was supposed to start at 3 o'clock. It didn't start until 5 o'clock, 5:15, that is. And Evan Lambert, he was in the back. He had a scheduled live hit. And all of a sudden, you hear it just getting loud back there. And before I know it, I see the Major General for Ohio's National Guard put his hands on him. What happened was Evan Lambert was back there doing a live report as scheduled for News Nation. He was about 40 feet behind us. You couldn't hear him. He wasn't distracting. Well, the people in the room, being the law enforcement, they didn't like it too well. The Ohio National Guard went back there. That's where Major General John Harris comes in. But then you have the Ohio State Highway Patrol. They go back there, and they're seen on video going like this, like, hey, shut it down. And immediately, he did shut it down. He was on live TV, though, national TV at that. And when he gets done, he says to the people that told him to stop, like, hey, I'm live on TV, and you just walked up to me and told me to shut this down. It's my First Amendment to talk, to let people know what's going on. And we already had this scheduled at 5:15. The press conference didn't start until 5:15. What are the odds that it starts right then and there, even though it was supposed to start at 3:00.
And you were in the room. Was he really being that loud? Like, was he being loud enough to where it was intercepting with what Governor DeWine was talking about?
While he was reporting, is that what you mean?
Yeah, when they,
No.
yeah, that
No.
from the video that I've seen, which some of it might have been yours, he sounded like you couldn't even hear it from where the initial video started, which would clearly mean you couldn't hear it from a far distance.
You couldn't hear him reporting back there. That wasn't bothering any of the officials. If you ask Governor DeWine, which I just got off a call with him a little bit ago, he'll tell you the same thing, that he shouldn't have been arrested. He was doing his job, and it didn't begin to be disruptive to the press conference until Major General John Harris put his hands on him. And then now it just turned physical.
Is there anybody speculating on why he was arrested so early? Because that was really, people weren't even talking necessarily about the controlled detonation, and they just said train accident and reporter arrested. Oh, what are we in Russia? Like, that's what people were saying. So why is there any speculation on why he was arrested?
They're saying that he was arrested because he was asked to leave the property. And when I asked why he was asked to leave, they're telling me it's because they told him to shut down his live shot, which he did. But then he got into a confrontation with Major General John Harris with the Ohio National Guard. Now, I've asked, why was Evan Lambert, a news reporter, asked to leave the press conference, but not the Major General? And nobody's been able to answer that question. The only slight answer that I've received was from Columbiana County Chief Deputy Jennifer Tucker. She told me that Lambert was told to leave because he refused to leave. But Major General John Harris, he removed himself from the situation. So it is still a very confusing situation, very confusing incident. What I do know is there's most likely going to be lawsuits that come out of this, if not terminations.
Interesting. Yeah, I just think it's very odd. And I think, and I want to get to some very specific details of what's going on there that people have questions about in a second. So do you find it odd as an independent reporter that you're not seeing more national news there, or is there national news and we're not seeing it across the country? I'm in Texas.
I mean, I would say that there is national news there. Now, right now, if you walk into East Palestine, I'm not going to say that there is a whole bunch of national news right now. We're talking a week and a half now after the train derailed. The Monday that they decided that they were going to self-detonate this apparatus, the train, that was the most cameras. And I've done this a while because I was a TV journalist for NBC affiliate. That was the most cameras that I've ever seen in one room.
Okay.
It was when they made the announcement, I would say there were about 50 to 55 reporters there. CNN was there, Fox, NBC, ABC, CBS. Okay. They were there, but I have seen it die off, especially as of late.
Gotcha.
I will say we're talking a very small town of 4,700 people. And for a story like this to garner that national attention that we have seen, that has been impressive, though. I would like to still see, though, the national correspondents, the national crews. I'd like to see them back in East Palestine to hold the Norfolk Southern's foot to the fire. But I don't know if we're going to see that, or if for some of those people, it's just a story that, hey, it was a headline for a week. Now we'll just, follow up if there's anything big happening.
I feel like it's gonna be a headline for a lifetime for a lot of these people, just based on the toxic chemicals. Because I feel like they're not gonna get the real answers necessarily of what's happening to them. Before I ask you about that, you talked about Norfolk Southern. There's been some talk about precision scheduled railroading. Did that come up much in any of the press briefings in terms of the fact that they've been cutting corners? We saw obviously that there was the union, the pending strike, and the fact that these workers were not getting enough time for safety checks, et cetera. Is that one of the big things that they talked about, or did they try to sweep that under the rug? Norfolk Southern?
Yeah, so Norfolk Southern, they weren't really too readily available for our questions that we had all week. There was one representative who attended the press conferences. I can't really remember his name right now. But when you're talking about cutting corners, that's a big question that a lot of people are asking. Like, hey, should this stuff have, been going through East Palestine? But were maintenance checks not being done? How did a train carrying the chemicals of this magnitude, how did it derail? But if you're going to ask me, Anthony, about cutting corners, one thing, and I think this was the biggest piece of information that came out of today's press conference with Governor Mike DeWine just a few hours ago, he said, and he's not too happy about this, he said that he learned today that the vinyl chloride and all of the chemicals that were traveling on this 50 train railway, he said that those chemicals were not considered a high hazardous material. It was not designated as a high hazardous train traveling through the area. And he called that, quote, absurd, that nobody was notified about this and that they don't consider that to be high hazardous.
Wow. Especially once you mix in the O2 and, of course, the fire, that completely changes the composition. And
Yeah.
the reason that they detonated, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, is because the actual the spillage would have been more dangerous to the runoff in the water. So they decided to put it up into the air. Is there any controversy and people thinking that was probably the wrong thing to do, or am I wrong on that?
No, I have a video right now on Twitter that's going viral, and I haven't had anything viral on Twitter in probably 8 years. Okay. And it's of the detonation, and people are really chiming in right there. And they're saying this shouldn't have been detonated. But the reason that they say they did the detonation, the chemical release is what they're calling it, is because apparently the chemicals and the heat were expanding inside 5 of the rail cars that were carrying the vinyl chloride. And they were afraid if it continued to expand, then it would rupture, it would explode and send shrapnel. Deadly shrapnel is the exact term that they used, up to 1 mile. And that's why they felt as though them doing a chemical release on their own was the best thing. But now we're hearing that they did this chemical release and there's still a plume of smoke in the air. And during the press conference today, we learned that this plume of smoke is actually moving south, and it's making way today into Huntington, West Virginia.
And any of the issues with the Ohio River, that's going to be my next question. The Ohio River is, I mean, literally, it goes to a million tributaries. It goes all over the country. Where it goes downstream, it goes to the Mississippi, the Missouri. It has all these effects. The whole, everybody showing these videos of the dead fish. Is that real? Or is this widespread, or is it just very, very centrally located to that area?
That was a question that was asked today during the press conference, and yeah, it's real. At least 3,500 fish have been found dead.
And how wide? And I mean, this goes along with one of the questions one of our hosts asked, which was how much ground is affected. She had heard as much as 11 square miles of the ground. Is that anything accurate?
Yeah. So they're saying right now that there's nothing there. We asked about the ground. We asked about the crops. We asked about other animals, and they said the only danger is water. The streams, some of the rivers that are nearby. The water and the fish. Non-aquatic animals, that shouldn't be a thing. And people are saying that, hey, my crops are dying. I'm struggling with some year-round plants that I have. And right now, they're saying that this doesn't have a huge effect on that. But what went up in the air has to come down somewhere, right?
Facts of life. And people keep talking about the pets too. There's the odd guy that has the pet foxes. I'm not going to get into his, whatever. But when it comes to the pets, people are talking. I've seen video of chickens dead, and I've seen the guy with his sick foxes. Has there been any actual normal pets? Like, have people said their dogs, their cats, or whatever are getting sick very fast, or they're dying, or going to vet? Did you see any of that while you're there? Because people care about dogs more than anything else.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's one person who she is blaming her dog's death on the chemical release. And I asked that question today during the press conference, like, hey, people, they are concerned right now that their dogs, their foxes, their chickens, they're dying. And they say, well, right now, non-aquatic animals have not been affected by
They're
it.
going to stay to that because I think that's the line. If they cross that, I think that enrages the country. Like it's like you kill a cat or a dog, and next thing you know, people will go berserk. So if they're not going to take ownership of that, I think we can understand why they don't want to do that right now.
And I asked, who would be covering the cost of either vet bills or necro? Let me make sure I have this written down right. Necropsy. Necropsy that's an autopsy for an animal.
Yeah.
So I asked Governor DeWine today, who will be responsible for covering this, whether it turns out that the dog was infected with the chemicals or not. Will Norfolk Southern still pay? Will they have to pay for the medical bills? And the answer to that, they're saying, is yes.
Wow.
Now, will people actually go and contact the vet and say, hey, I feel as though my chicken, my fox, my cat, my dog died because of the chemical release? I'm not sure. But when I talked to the Ohio Department of Agriculture today, they said that would be the best thing to do is contact your vet immediately if you feel as though you have any concerns about their health due to the chemical release.
Got it. All right. I'm going to do 2 quick questions. We went a little over, but this is
You're good.
And we haven't heard any of this across the board. And some of the questions we want to ask. Speaking of money, there is both sides saying extreme and not extreme. People are supposed to be getting money regarding FEMA. From what I hear, is not there. No government entities have been there to help. It sounds like none of the corporate executives of Norfolk Southern have been there, except for their just basic representatives that they've been sending. Are people getting the payout? Some people are saying they're only getting $5 per person per night or per day, which some other people have said that's actually a lie. People are getting what they're supposed to be getting from Norfolk Southern. Have you heard any of that for displacement?
Yeah, so there's a family assistance center that's going to be open for at least the next 2 weeks in East Palestine, where residents they're able to ask questions there or get a reimbursement of some sorts. What I do know is there's people in East Palestine who are receiving checks, but they're also saying that some of those checks aren't clearing from Norfolk Southern.
Like they're bouncing.
Yes.
Interesting.
And that was a question that was asked during the press conference today. It was, I believe it was asked maybe towards the end. If you look me up on Jordan Miller News, my Facebook page is right there on the bottom of the screen. I have the press conference up. A news reporter asked about that, and there's nothing that the Ohio's government can do right now. But Governor Mike DeWine said we do have an attorney general. And if this stuff isn't figured out, we will pursue that route.
Excellent. Last question for you. Here, I want to really quick stop it right here, and then we got about 2 minutes left of it because there's an important point that him and I talked about afterwards regarding the money being sent. So there's a lot of people complaining that they're not getting any money, and they do actually have a valid reason, despite the fact that the checks might be bouncing. They are the only people getting the funds from Norfolk Southern are those that live within a 1 mile radius. So the ones that were evacuated. So if you're 1.5 miles and you chose to leave, like any human being that could smell the clouds there that they're not getting reimbursed. People were saying that people are coming from 10, 15 miles, 20 miles away trying to get money. If you are not in the evacuation zone, Norfolk Southern is not paying it, to be clear. I want to be specific. And there was one other comment in terms of, somebody said, who owns Norfolk? I'm going to play a quick video after this. It's essentially owned by Wall Street, but we'll get into that in a second. Real quick, what are people afraid of that live there? Are people concerned for their health long term?
Mm-hmm. People are 100% concerned for their health right now.
Do you think that town makes it? Do you think it becomes a ghost town?
I'm not sure. I've talked to only two people out of the 4,700 that live there last week that said, it's just chemicals I've breathed in worse. It won't be that bad. I have other people who are worried about returning home. And this evacuation order was lifted 6 days ago, last Wednesday, and there's people that have not returned to their homes right now.
Did you notice your eyes? Did you notice burning yourself? You were out there quite a bit.
Yeah. So if the smell is potent, the smell is terrible. As of right now, I know it's kind of cliche to say, but I've had kind of an off and on headache, but I don't know if that's stress. I don't know if it's related to that, but this is an issue that is being brought up right now by health officials. People are going to the health officials and they're saying, hey, I have a really bad headache. Hey, I can't stop coughing. I can barely breathe. Is this an effect? And what our government health officials are saying is go see your primary doctor.
And that leads me to my last question. You were out there for a few days, and like we just talked about, you've got a wife, you've got a kid on the way, just doing what a reporter does. Are you concerned for your long-term health just being there for that period of time?
Yeah, I think the more that it goes on, I have been concerned. I guess the more I learned about what vinyl chloride and some of these other chemicals are, it was, I don't want to use the term cool, but in the beginning, while I'm reporting on it and I'm up close, and when the detonation happened, I was a mile away. I didn't think that there was anything wrong with being where I am. Now that I look back at some of the stuff, and now that we continue to learn more, you have dead fish that's popping up. So are you saying only the water is bad, but the air wasn't? So that's something I'm still confused on.
Right. How did it get in the water? It settled in the water. I mean,
yeah, and I would think, down the road, if something were to pop up, knock on wood, hopefully it doesn't. My first thought would be the 2023 train derailment in East Palestine.
Yeah. Jordan, one more time, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Facebook at Jordan Miller News. My website is jordanmiller.news. And then Twitter and Instagram are both J_Miller TV. That's where you can find all of my latest news, my reports, my videos. I post some of my radio clips on all of my platforms as well. So you can find me there for anything. If you have any news, big or small, you can send me a message right there on any of those social media platforms. And I'll do my best to get back in touch with you, and we'll try to go from there.
You got a hold of me right away when I said, let's do an interview. So thanks a lot, Jordan. And I'm going to go ahead and end this interview. Thank you very much, and appreciate what you're doing. Thanks for giving me as much truth as possible.
All right, Anthony. Thank you.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure that was an award-winning interview right there. I think that was Emmy quality. Personally, that's just my personal opinion.
I'm struggling to breathe, like someone's head swelling.
So good. Anyways, no, he was a great interview, great guy. We talked a little bit afterwards. Tony, you and I go back and forth on stuff, chemtrails, all this different stuff. This is obviously suspect. You've got Houston, you've got South Carolina, and now a truck that just flipped over in Tucson, Arizona. What are your conspiratorial thoughts on all of this?
Well, let's mention Washington too. They've had quite a bit over a short period of time. But if you go back and you look at the owners or the investors, or where a lot of these railways fall under, the power of the three that be that are their number one stakeholders on Wall Street. And it's always Vanguard, BlackRock, and something to do with Warren Buffett. So I definitely think that this is tied into something else that's bigger. We've known for years that these big mega companies and the government have been weaponizing our air, our supply chain, our food, our water, and I think this is all part of it.
Yeah, I mean, we talked before this call. I said, this is either to me. Without anything else, it's massive negligence. If it's not on purpose, it's negligence. And to look at what these people are, I would never go back to that town. I'd be done. And the thing is, he was telling me the cloud is just traveling across the United States of America. So that means it's just settling down. And that river, Ohio River, is linked to every major river on the eastern half of the United States of America. Like, this could have some really long-term issues, which, as I said in a live earlier, they're building lifelong customers for the pharmaceutical industries that are going to have cancers pop up in 5 years, 10 years, all these different things, kidney issues. This is some really dangerous stuff that they chose to ignite themselves, as I've learned more about this. I thought that explosion happened from the crash until yesterday, when I found out they they did a controlled detonation because they thought it would be better than what was happening. That's insane to me. Casey?
It's absolutely insane. And if you look at it, and I hate using this example because it's a very extreme example, but it gives you the severity of how it can get there. Chernobyl was spanning 500 kilometers. So just from one disaster, it's not just where it happened. The jet stream and our climate and everything is carrying it wherever it goes, whatever direction it blows. And there's a reason for being concerned anywhere in that path. Now, when we're talking about vinyl chloride, where it's been tested on animals to cause cancer for long-term exposure. And they found it in all of the different types of animals, not just fish. So for them to say that is very ignorant and careless in my mind. They need to be taking more action. Now, the problem is you already alluded to it a little bit from David's question, is who owns Norfolk, which they don't want a publicly traded company going into a recession to have a significant impact on stocks on top of this recession. They are trying to protect their friends. What also is not talked about a little bit, well, I'm starting to see it being talked about. I was waiting for the show, but what I believe they're going to blame, and I say they as in the system, as in the government that is all trying to just turn away and not look at this. They're going to try to blame this on Donald Trump for repealing the FAST Act in 2017. The FAST Act was putting in place a whole bunch of safety measures on highways, bridges, railways, and also adding better braking systems to hazardous vehicles that are transporting hazardous material. Trump repealed that, unfortunately. I believe this administration is going to spin that to blame it on him because he repealed it. Now,
I think it's interesting because last night because I wanted to know the truth behind this, because that's the whole point of the way we've taken this show is let's take the news stories that are obviously, everybody's focused on and try to figure out which extreme is too far and where the actual truth lies. So the person I was talking to actually has a husband that works for Norfolk Southern, and talked about how much they have had to, for safety purposes, cut corners based on everything that was going on with the negotiations of the unions before, and what had been going on for too long ever since the pandemic. They've been understaffed and they've been cutting corners, plain and simple. And that is a Wall Street situation. The best description that her husband that they came up with was actually sending me this short clip. This is just a couple minutes long, and this talked about why I asked the question about precision, whatever that word was, specific, but precision stuff. This is that example. So let me go ahead and play this real fast. This guy does a pretty bang up job explaining it. And of course he's got a mullet and a mustache, so we have to trust him. So
absolutely.
I heard firsthand months ago about the corporate practice of precision scheduled railroading.
Precision scheduled railroading is shorter staff, longer hours, longer trains, less safety, less maintenance. Do I have all that right?
Oh, you got it all right. I
Okay.
mean, a lot of the derailments that you're seeing on national TV is one of a few things. It's like
December,
on the track,
and he is
where
from
they've cut
Ohio.
The track gang's too short, and they can't get out to fix it, or they've cut the carmans, which is the union that works on the rail cars. So we have one derailment here in Northeast Ohio where a wheel flange was very thin. It picked a switch and derailed the entire train. Luckily, it was full of candle wax and not something highly volatile.
Rail workers tried to strike over this stuff, but were stopped by Congress. A few weeks later, and here we are. Several Norfolk Southern cars of toxic, highly volatile chemicals exploded fantastically in the tiny town of East Palestine, Ohio, 20 miles from where I grew up. So I met Clyde in East Palestine to ask him about it.
It looks like a faulty bearing caused a catastrophic derailment. These railroads are turning profits hand over fist. They've cut their workforce to bare bones, and now they're paying the price for it because the wheels are falling off the train, basically. Carmen were inspecting cars about 3 minutes per car. That's always been the industry standard. Now it's 90 seconds per car.
Is that because of PSR?
Yes, it's a rush job right now. And these guys are under pressure. I mean, they're working men and women. And, if they don't hurry up and get this car done, they're going to be fired.
Great points. So I went to a press conference with Norfolk Southern and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to ask them about this.
What could precision scheduled railroad have to do with the axle failure that caused the derailment?
I have no idea if it's a mechanical issue. Precision scheduled railroading is a management process.
Not a great answer. And that's probably because Norfolk Southern let a worker take the fall rather than a single corporate executive showing up in the town that they polluted to be held accountable. You see, Wall Street owns Norfolk Southern. 74% of shares are owned by a who's who of infamous hedge funds. And this is the business model that they demand. Profit at any cost. And disaster like this is simply a cost of doing business. They cut everything, make all the money, and pay off disasters in tiny flyover towns from the profit. But instead of answering for any of that, they're betting that the corporate media, under the same pressure for extreme profit as railroads, will only ask questions about how much cancer people will get and not why this preventable disaster happened.
Was there really any doubt that he was from somewhere in Ohio with that haircut and the whole getup? But he knocked that one out of the park. That was pretty good. Pretty good stuff.
He did amazing. And it's exactly what we talk about when we start talking about these these public companies, and when hedge funds get involved. They had the same issues when the short squeeze started to happen with GameStop and all those hedge funds really took a pinch because everybody played the game against them and made them fork out the money. And so they're not going to pay any money. They don't want to. And so they're going to try to hide this as much as they can, and they'll pay other people off to keep this quiet. And that's what's going to happen.
And I was speaking to the person, I know they're watching too right now, and they were the ones, the bearing and the fact that it's parts that have needed to be replaced forever. There's checks that need to be taking more time. This was, whether you want to look at it on purpose or not, the railway system is much like our bridges were several years ago. And in terms of infrastructure, meanwhile, we've got Chief Booty Gang over there that literally is worried about equity in the railroad industry the same day that there are these three massive situations happening on the infrastructure and transportation of this country. The Transportation Secretary, Buttigieg. I think that this is egregious oversight, to say the least. Tony?
Oh, I think that I think it's, I don't even have the words for it without, dropping a couple of F-bombs. I think it's completely unresponsive and unresponsible not to address this. When he was talking earlier, when they were talking about the Chinese spy balloons and everything like that, there was no mention made of all of this going on. It has been crickets from our government, from the mainstream media, from, these, with the exception of Fox News, like you said in the beginning, Anthony, and we're not seeing and investigating what we need to have investigated. They're sweeping it all under the carpet, just like, how these drugs and vaccines injure people. It is the same friggin' thing. It's all for profit, and it's disgusting.
Yeah, that one summed it up just right. And then you even said it's like in the private chat talking about the medical industry and pharmaceuticals. Essentially, they can't even. So Tucker Carlson breaks all rules. Same with Laura Ingraham in a lot of ways, but they can't even report they can just say what's going on. They're doing their basic journalism, but they can't do the actual laying into the information as much because, as we talk about the pharmaceutical industry, they're the largest lobby in the country. And then underneath that, you've got the hedge funds. So you've got billions, if not trillions of dollars tied up into this situation, this kind of company with Norfolk Southern. They can't fully report on how egregious this truly was of a mistake, because 4,100 people doesn't sound like a lot, but if you're talking about 4,100 people that have been exposed to a chemical that's going to affect their lives, their pets, their livelihoods, clear out of town, this is and that's just in that town, not including the people 10 miles away. This is a bigger story than what people are saying, and we're going to end it with this story. People keep saying, are the UFOs, and that's what we're going to talk about, the quote unquote UFOs, are they a distraction? And I'm a person that says, when you start doing the whole distraction conversation, this isn't 1983. We are able to literally look up anything on our mobile device. We can, as Biden says, eat or walk and chew bubble gum at the same time. We can look at multiple stories at once. Now, I think that they're forcing certain stories down our throat and this not as much. Do you buy the whole, these other things are a distraction, or is right now just a whole bunch of crazy effing news going on at the same time?
Well, I'm going to tell you what, I think it's a distraction. I think all of this is. I think, what happened during the Super Bowl halftime show, which wasn't privy to watch. I just picked up bits and pieces on social media. And, that particular subject, those two particular subjects were completely to distract people from hearing about, these true things that are going on and how they're going to end up. It's not just going to be those 4,700 people in that town, like you said, Anthony. It's going to be tens of thousands of more. I was doing research as I was watching Jordan's interview that you did on how bad vinyl chloride is, and how it's in the air and how we breathe it in and how it travels, and it hits everything from the air, water, and soil. This is going to be way worse. I can see Aaron Brockovich taking this, and doing the research on it and bringing it to light in the legal system a year or two or down the road. And it's going to be ugly.
I've heard, I don't know if somebody said this in one of the comments, that Aaron Brockovich is actually on site in Ohio right now. Did you just bring her up on accident or not?
It was just divine. It was just divine timing.
No, from what I understand from a couple of our followers, they've said that Aaron is doing what the government is not, and she's actually testing all the water right now. I cannot corroborate that, but that was multiple people have said that to me.
Yeah.
So I find that interesting.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Now I will say, before Casey goes, again, the distraction word, I just think there's a lot of things happening at once. And the halftime show, I do believe in some conspiracy, obviously, and I do believe there is nefarious things out there, but for them to put Rihanna, who might be pregnant, who has then said she was pregnant in the halftime show, and everybody talking about it, I just think that's accidental. I don't think the master planner of conspiracies decided to go, all right, this is how we're going to distract people. I just think there's just so much shit going on, and we're also, as human beings and Americans, we're easily distracted anyways. So that's my thoughts on that. Casey?
Yeah, I hate the term distraction. I used to use it a whole lot when I was getting into all of this.
Yeah, you did.
I hate it. I hate the term distraction now. And a lot of that is because the Q stuff that came up over the last few years, they started saying that, oh, this is a distraction of what's bigger. Okay, then what's bigger? What is that bigger? And why can't I pay attention to both? What is that? And so you won't catch me saying that anymore. Honestly, they could be trying old habits to distract people from certain things. A lot of people are saying Project Bluebeam, which is very similar to a distraction. But all in all, I think these are big events, and the media is only picking certain ones to try to keep people to pay attention to the news for the things that they want, but hide this stuff to protect their friends. It's not necessarily an intended distraction that these events are all planned. I think it's a distraction with the media trying to keep your attention off of certain things. That's all it is. And these events are just happening. It's scary because you mentioned Arizona. We talked about it just a few minutes before the show started. And you look it up, they're shutting down a school, telling everybody to shelter in place because it's near that wreck, and telling the parents to come get their kids early. And this stuff is going right there towards the school because of the weather that's going on down there. It's really ridiculous.
And I know we're talking about Project Bluebeam. If anybody doesn't know what that is, it's not to be confused with Project Blue Balls. That happens to a lot of middle school young gentlemen. That's two very different things. I just want to be very clear. Project Bluebeam and Project Blue Balls, not the same.
And everybody put a 1 in the chat if you knew what I was talking about, and Russo is the only one that went that way.
Yeah. Watch the Water, by the way, is about it's with Stu Peters, Brian Artist. So this is not about that, but they could. The thing is, the water system is the easiest way to truly infiltrate health in our country, because people go, oh, I don't drink tap water. Do you use ice cubes? Do you wash your dishes with it? Do you feed your pets that way? There's a lot of different things that could be done. Really, guys?
There's
Seriously?
also a lot of 1s in that chat.
Yeah, I know what Project Bluebeam is. It's a joke. Jeez, calm down, conservatives. All right. So real quick, because again, this was supposed to be a 45-minute show, so we'll try to clear it at an hour. The Michigan State shooting, for those of you that have been paying attention, I know there's a couple comments questioning about it. Jeanette, I live classy. You know this. That's what I do. So what I found interesting, I immediately saw it last night. I started looking into it. The fact that this is my one comment of this. You have an active shooter, and the woke media is so afraid to say what the suspect looked like because he was black, that you have got a bunch of people running for their lives. And this isn't a race thing, but this is a description thing of an active shooter. You know, and any liberal or leftist that disagrees with me, you're full of complete hot, warm, steamy garbage. You know that if it was a white shooter, they'd say white male, 6 foot tall, running around. Period. Tony, am I right? Would they, of course, say that?
100%.
And in this case, they knew early that this was a 5'7" or whatever black man, and they did not share it. If I was a parent, or if I was somebody living in East Lansing, I would be absolutely livid that there's no description of what my child is running from. You need to know what you're looking for. I even listened to the radio frequencies on that, and there was just no information, even though they now are saying that they knew immediately because they had footage of the guy coming out. It's bull crap. We've been good without swearing, so I'm actually trying to avoid it so I could actually say non-explicit. It's bull crap. It's dangerous. It's an actual wokeness leads to death at this point. Agreed?
Yeah, it's last night when I saw this come up, I immediately was like, okay, no description. Let's see how this plays out. I was kind of going the same route you're just talking about. I was like, they haven't released the description of this individual. And then they came on and talked and said, oh, we'll release the pictures. They said when they actually had their press conference a little bit later, I want to say it was like 9 o'clock Mountain Time, whatever that works out to all the time zone changes. But they'll say we'll release the picture of them on Twitter. And then they left it at that. The only thing that came out with the description was people actually looking at the picture later. And we're like,
that's a black guy.
Hey.
With a handgun, not an AR, with a handgun. Yeah.
Completely ruined all narrative that the media will run with. So we're just going to see this kind of just disappear.
Yeah, they're just going to talk about the amount of mass shootings this year, which is, again, they don't, people hear mass shootings, they automatically are triggered to think white males. And in all reality, mass shootings are what happens in Chicago on a regular weekend if there's more than 3 people shot. That is the technical FBI statistic definition of a mass shooting. And people that aren't like us have no idea. So they immediately go, it's an AR shooting at a school. It's got to be. It's not. It's this. This is what happened. Anyways, I think it's dangerous. And I think that that's crazy that this is the way that our news system and the way that we're so afraid of blaming. Tony, did you see the story that I put on my Instagram about the woke baker from, I want to say San Francisco that got murdered by robbers? So she gets robbed. She chases after the robbers, but she's like anti-police, super woke. She gets dragged by the car like over a block, ends up dying of her injuries, a brain injury that happened in that instance. Her family, because of what they believe her wishes would have been, are asking that they do not arrest or prosecute the perpetrators because she does not want to continue the cycle of anti-black criminality and prosecution. This is a real story.
So what, you're going to set precedents for people just to go and do that because of their skin color, and it's okay? No, that's not okay. Any kind of criminal behavior needs to be dealt with accordingly. I don't care what people's wishes are. And the one thing is that regardless, I bet she wasn't saying that in the moment that was happening. And I'm sorry to say that.
I bet too. She'd probably be like, prosecute these son of a bitch. She chased after them. So clearly if she didn't want to chase after, if she didn't, in my mind right now, she is wherever she might end up being I might have been a little off on some of my ideology, but her family and her friends are riding this to the bone, which I believe that they should be, if these guys end up committing another crime, if they really do get these guys, which I don't think they can because the DA should actually prosecute them. But if they were to get off because of this family saying, do not press charges, if they commit a crime on anybody else, they should sue the living crap out of the friends and family that let this go. That's just...
You know what? I'm sorry, but people cannot dictate laws. They're there to protect us for a reason. So that is just, it's ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Well, it's just like what California did, right? When they changed the criminality of the dollar amount on theft, and they made it to where $950 and below, it's petty theft. It's nothing felony or anything major. So you just have people grabbing stuff and just walking out the store. They're fearless.
Criminal's gonna criminal, and people jumping on the whole gun control bandwagon, saying, you know, we need to make changes. We don't know anything if this guy's gun was legal or not. And fact is, we have a Pandora's box in this country. The only way to get rid of gun violence is to get rid of all guns. We have the Second Amendment. You can't do that. We also have, even if they got rid of every legal firearm there is right now, the people that would be keeping their firearms are the criminals. And then, of course, the Second Amendment is about a tyrannical government. So there's so many different things that are not practical with that. You can't put it back in the box. Yeah, buy more guns. That's what I would do. Melissa, I'm with you on that one. All right, quick story, the UFOs, because we've already talked about them at length. We apparently, I just found out yesterday, we missed the one over Lake Huron. We had to take 2 shots. What kind of missiles are we using? It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know. Do you find it odd that when nobody's talking, Tony or Casey, about the fact that these flying objects, not including the massive first balloon that we let traverse across the country, are the size of an automobile, yet they're 40,000 feet in the air? That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't at all. And, you know, I want to look at the timeline of when they just started popping up all of a sudden. That doesn't make sense either.
They use the line, and this is the one that, and even my leftist trolls on social media are like, what, does that not make sense to you? No, it doesn't, because they use the line of these have been going on for a long time. They happened during Trump, and they use the phrase, how people can just be so brainwashed to listen and go, yeah, that makes sense. They went undetected during the Trump regime, but we do know that they were there then. So when were they detected?
That's my question, is they went undetected during Trump. Oh, okay. So did China say thanks for not shooting it down? Is that what they did?
Hey, this is just so you know, we did this, but I don't know why you shot this one down. Here is a whole laundry list of it. You have people that don't like Trump that worked in his administration saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. I think Bolton is the one that can't stand Trump, right? Yeah. Bolton was going, we never were briefed on this, never heard anything about it. This is a guy that would love to shove Trump under any bus, and he's like, yeah, this is just not accurate. Meanwhile, CNN, MSNBC, all still reporting the same thing, and their viewers are just going, how do you not understand what we're saying? It was undetected. Somebody on my page did the exact line that I've used, and I go, this is my favorite CNN story of all time, talking about crime in the undocumented immigrant population and using an actual statistic. How do you use a statistic of violent crime in undocumented immigrants when they're undocumented, so you don't actually know how many undocumented? You have to be a special kind of stupid to actually read these things and not think something is wrong with it. Am I right?
100%.
What were you going to show there, Case?
I got to show this. Like, you're just talking about this stuff, and I just have to show it because our government is just wonderful, and we know that they're just the greatest people on the planet. So I shared this a little earlier. Let me pull this back up. Here we go.
That played a greater strength, some where he probably isn't as strong, etc.
I will tell you this: the president is the best communicator that we have in the White House. Go ahead, right here.
Just gonna say, the president is the best communicator we have in the White House. Does that give anybody a great comfort and warm and fuzzies on the inside?
There's not even words that go along with that. There's not. All right, we're going to wrap it up with Super Bowl real fast, 5 minutes. I want to play, where's the clip you sent me, Casey? It should be right. Yeah, all right. So we're going to talk tomorrow. First, before we go to Damar Hamlin, that's how we're going to close. Because I want to talk Super Bowl. People that are so freaking, Tony, you didn't watch the Super Bowl, right? And I don't blame people for not watching the Super Bowl, but people, here's the deal. What we are fighting for as a country, and Tony has one of the most beautiful homes I've ever seen. We all have really great lives that we choose to live in a certain way, and we choose to be happy at the end of the day. And what we are fighting for with truth and information is so that we can continue that way of life. And if somebody finds joy in watching an effing game and watching the commercials and watching the halftime and wondering if Rihanna is pregnant, let people enjoy it. I don't watch much sports anymore, except for when I'm working for Fox Sports. But when it comes to the Super Bowl, I watch it. You get to be around family. You get to be around, you eat. It's fellowship of enjoying life. And if people are taking that crap too serious and saying, "Oh, you're supporting the machine," and I'm going to respectfully disagree, and I'm going to say you're losing sight of what we're fighting for. We're fighting for the ability to enjoy the little things in life, like the view off of a beautiful patio into the ocean, or going and watching the Super Bowl. And we need to chill. Conservatives, ultra right extremists, please just chill out. Otherwise, we lose focus of the goal.
We are literally trying to find any reason to disagree with somebody.
Right.
And I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And this is one of the things that I was telling you guys during COVID and with the kneeling and stuff that was going on. I'm like, I'm not letting go. Sports is the only thing that we can bring people together, that we disagree and we give each other crap for because we like our teams or we support a player, but we still disagree and we still can cheers and have a drink later that day. That is the only thing that sports is bringing us all together on. You name something else. There isn't it. There isn't anything.
And to be clear, like, could the games be rigged? I mean, yeah, I believe in betting. Like, and I don't think they're rigged. Like, this people freaking out, like it's scripted. Damar Hamlin, this, that. I mean, no, I think that yes. I mean, my mom used to work for a bookie. I grew up in Vegas. Like boxing, hugely rigged, even to this day. Especially if you're not talking championship level. There's people taking falls all the time. There's refs that are getting paid off. Things are rigged. Absolutely, I believe that. Oh my God,
Russo, I've seen you at work carrying around your script that you do all day long. Right. I see it.
Exactly. All right, let me bring this last. Tony, you didn't watch the Super Bowl, but do you have guilty pleasures that you like to enjoy in life that people will be like, you're losing focus on freedom and all this different stuff?
Well, Anthony, I love to travel. So, it's one of the joys that I get out of life. And I try to do it as much as I can. And I like to go to beautiful places. Sometimes, I could be in Ohio or, Michigan or Illinois in the wintertime. That's not my jam, but my love is to travel and be around people that I appreciate.
100%. Yeah. And we just got to calm down a little bit. Like there's no more intense people than Tony and I mean, you can't get more intense, but you also have to enjoy your life. Like, what are you fighting for? So let me bring this real quick thing up with Damar Hamlin. That's how we're going to end the conversation. Present. Where did I do with it? Share screen. And last but not least, is this it? No. Where'd it go? Chief Nerd. There it is. All right.
From the ICU, the question on so many minds, what caused his heart to stop beating?
You're 24, peak physical condition, can run circles around me right now. How did doctors describe what happened to you?
That's something I want to stay away from.
I know from my experience at NFL, they do more tests than anything. And in the course of you having your physical, did anybody ever come back with say you had a heart issue or anything that was abnormal?
Honestly, no. I've always been a healthy, young, fit, energetic, human being, let alone athlete. So it was something that was just, that we still processing, and I'm still talking through with my doctors just to see what everything was.
What the hell? Blink twice, Damar. Blink twice if you're not allowed to say something you want to say. Like the way that he answered the follow-up question to me was almost going, they told me, you feel like he wants to say something but can't. And I said this earlier on a live. For those people that said it was Commotio cordis, I even said that night they were going to blame it on Commotio cordis the next day. That's actually physically impossible, and they never corrected that news story because he was revived twice. Commotio cordis, you put the heart back in rhythm, and it doesn't go out of rhythm. Commotio cordis is a one-time thing. If you survive or if you die, there's no way for him to slip in and out of it. So that was a falsehood that they've never corrected. And now you've got this story. Why would you take an interview if you can't answer the one question that everybody wants to know? Anybody?
He's got to cover it up. You know, he's got to cover it up, and he's got to keep his contract or whatever he's getting paid off. And that's exactly what is happening. Or, you know, they told him, if you say anything, you or people that you love are in danger. And you guys, I also, you know, had a lot of responses back, and people, I can't remember the name of the guy who studies people. They don't think it's Damar. They think it's an actor.
Yeah, and there's the whole tattoo things. You know me, I've spent some time looking at that. Like, there was one, lighting is a bitch on black skin with tattoos. So sometimes you can't see it. So the whole thing with tattoo behind the ear when he was on the field wearing the Jesus jacket that everybody's freaking out about, which I could honestly, as a Christian, I don't care. Like, if at least it's got Jesus on it, just because it's not the depiction you want it to be, whatever. That's just me. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. But there is a tattoo. It's just very hard to see because of the lighting in the stadium. And then when he did the interview, it's weird. I think it was weird that he didn't show himself in the stadium. There's a whole bunch of weird stuff, all the things with the threes. I just really don't care. But what I do care about more than anything is the fact that he couldn't answer that question in the way that he did it. Because that to me is as concrete as it can get. The deep fakes of him, like you can say, you know, that to me goes, what can I prove? I can't prove any of that. So what I can prove is he did not answer that question at all, and it was awkward. That's my point on that. Case?
Honestly, if you're going to just worry about whether he's real or not, what impact did that have on your life? What did that change? Can we focus on stuff that really matters? Like, who cares if they put a dummy out there? Did that change your perspective? No. Go back and change the situation by going back to Congress and your government and what they've done to you for the last 3 years, and do something about that. And then that will fix the problem. Don't worry about some clone that's out there.
Dylan, my career, totally safe. If I speak out, don't worry, I'll tell the truth. And honestly, like, yeah, you can believe it's not him. Like, I'm not saying that it's impossible that there couldn't be some massive conspiracy, but that. And as for the coat, like, I get it. Look, it was weird. It's like, and this is where I do fall into it's art. Like, did you see the jacket, Tony?
No, I didn't see the jacket.
It's like this high fashion thing, and it's got like a weird drawing of Jesus and the blood. Like, it is what would be considered a little bit blasphemous, but we live in an era where, I mean, technically we're not supposed to wear flags on jackets. We do, you know, that flag. I mean, we do a lot of weird stuff. And ultimately, as I said to Casey before the show, do we all really know what Jesus looked like? Like, in my opinion, we're probably looking at a slightly lighter version than what probably is the truth, just based on where he was in the world. Like, it's all behind glass, you know, glass eye or sunglasses, whatever. That's all I got. That's the show for tonight. Oh, well, and on top of all this, nobody's paying attention. There was so many like mid-level celebrities last week that randomly, unfortunately died. And then today we had two. We had a 25-year-old Belgian soccer player, goalie, died in the middle of the field, middle of the game. They call on the pitch, passed away, middle of the game today. And then you've got 47-year-old Dave Hollis, who was built like a brick shithouse. Rachel Hollis's ex-husband. Rachel is a very woke left motivational speaker, but she's also really awesome at the same time when you hear her speak, but she is very left. She had Tony Robbins on recently, and he was pretty much talking about the issues surrounding COVID and fear and even the vaccine, and she heard it. But I am a firm believer that family, since he used to work for Disney, I just believe as though he most likely got the jab. We'll never, of course, hear that from the media, but he died, and they finally admitted that he had been having heart issues leading up to it. So again, can this happen to a healthy 47-year-old? Yes. In the massive amount of numbers we see coming in, where there is smoke, there is fire. That's all I have to say. Any final words, Tony?
You know, the one thing I do want to just pivot back on what you said about Dave Hollis, because I actually was one of the 0.001% that did have a hole in her heart and almost died from it. And so it's a very small percentage for this to happen. So we really have to be discerning on, and I see this all the time, you know, Anthony, when you and I are posting stuff like that, and you can't assume that everybody's, you know, dying from these heart issues because of the jab and all this kind of stuff. Well, you know, there's enough. And I sent you the recent VAERS report today, which we know that we're only getting 10% from that. And the numbers are staggering on what's happening in that category. And then also too, I forget the guy of the doctor who, oh my gosh, why can't I remember his name? He's up in Idaho and he tracks everything. He's got the most comprehensive system of cataloging what people pass away from. And I just saw him recently talking on another show saying the statistics that he has, and I'll get that name to you, Anthony, so you can do the research yourself. They're staggering on how many people are just, you know, dying from heart issues all of a sudden.
And people keep saying like, well, do you know anybody? Well, first off, we have a big following, so I do know of people, but like the average person maybe goes, well, my family, they all got the shot. Nobody got sick from it. Nobody had problems. The numbers that Peter McCullough is coming out with right now are right around 1 out of 800, not dying, but having a severe reaction. 1 out of 800 is not like it's guaranteed you're going to know a person, but there's a chance that's still way more than in the very beginning. They said the adverse reaction scale would be somewhere between 1 to 7 out of 1 million. This is a drastic difference, is all I can say.
Yep.
And based on our following, just hearing stories, and a lot of people don't even believe it. There was a story I heard this weekend, a child that was born with major birth defect, maximum age living is 3 years old. The mom got juiced while she was pregnant, and they can't even talk about it because they don't want to talk about it. But fact is, you can say there's a chance that something led to it. Anyways, that's all I got. Casey, what's your final words?
Final words is what I posted earlier today. We got to stop looking at the president to fix all of our issues. Like if we have issues and just because the president is there, the president is not going to be the one to fix the issues. You can also call out your Congress and all of your elected officials. They have the power, not just the president. So I encourage you to look more to them and hold them accountable. And if they don't do the job, remove them from their position.
Great. Speaking of that, Casey, soon you'll be seeing some stuff. So I'm working with a Convention of States, which does a lot of that kind of stuff. Kim, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. So one of the things with Great American Syndicate, we're trying to get things like Public Square and Convention of States integrated into our systems so you can get more involved. Convention of States, perfect example. It's not just about calling a convention. They're talking about holding your local legislators, not hostage, but holding them to the fire, essentially, to make sure they're doing what is truly right in the eyes of the Constitution. So that's a big deal. Kim, again, appreciate you. Casey, as always on point. Tony, thank you, as always, for hooking me up with some stuff. So you can always find Tony. Find Tony at Tony Van's Official. She does a lot of lives. She's also got a whole CRM platform that's badass that our Kelly and I's spa, which that's probably why I got to get off. It is Valentine's Day, and I got to go get baby some food for Valentine's Day. But check out Tony on all of her spots. She's awesome, and she's a huge supporter of us. And hopefully we will see all of you at the Great American Syndicate Summit. Great American Summit that you can find more on greatamericansyndicate.com or greatamericansummit.com, which I'll throw on the bottom to end the show. There's Tony's information going across tony.mymonate.com. And go get your discounted tickets. They're still under $100. Don't know for how long. Check that out. Write me out. Catch you guys later. God bless. Have a fantastic evening.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Take care.
Holla.
Thanks, Tony.